Let me take you back to February 19, 1943, Kasserine Pass, Tunisia. The desert sun is so hot it blisters the paint on tank hulls, and the wind whips sand into every crack. A 22-year-old German tank commander named Otto Carius is hunched over the controls of his Tiger, sweat dripping down his neck. He's feeling pretty untouchable, and why wouldn't he? He's already taken out 12 British Crusader tanks in North Africa, and this Tiger? It's a beast. 88mm gun that can punch through a Sherman's armor from 2,000 yards, about the length of 20 football fields. He's creeping through the scrub, his gunner, Hans, scanning the horizon for Americans, when contact left. 1,200 yards. Hans yells, slamming his fist on the turret. Otto flicks on the periscope, squinting against the sun. 3 Shermans trundle over a sand dune, their olive-drab paint blending with the desert, tracks kicking up clouds of dust. He smirks, easy targets. These are the Ronsons his sergeant talked about, lights up first click. Fire when ready, he says, leaning back. The 88mm booms. A flash of orange, one Sherman erupts in flames, its crew bailing out, running for cover. The other 2 stop, then split. One veers left, toward a gully, the other right, behind a cluster of rocks, like they're reading each other's minds. Otto frowns, leaning forward. What are they doing? They're supposed to run. Before he can order another shot, his radio crackles, just static, loud and scratchy, like a cat clawing at a speaker. He slams his fist on it, Fu 5, pick up. This is Tiger 1-1, where are the other Panthers? Nothing. Then Hans yells, voice tight, another Sherman behind us. 500 yards. Otto spins the periscope. Sure enough, a 4th Sherman has circled around, its 75mm gun aimed right at the Tiger's weak rear armor, only 80mm thick, half the front strength. Fire rear. Load AP, he shouts. But it's too late. The Sherman's shell hits with a thud. The Tiger's engine sputters, then dies. Smoke fills the hull, thick, acrid, stinging Otto's eyes. Bail out, he yells. They scramble out the hatch, running for the desert as their tank burns. Otto dives behind a rock, chest heaving, and stares at those Shermans. They're not faster, his Tiger can hit 28 miles per hour, same as them. Not better armored, their front plates are only 76mm. Not more powerful. But they moved like a pack, like they knew exactly where each other was, exactly what to do. He mutters to himself, wiping sand from his eyes, how are they coordinating? Our radios are just static. How do they talk? What Otto didn't know that day. The Sherman's deadliest weapon wasn't its gun. It was a little black metal box bolted to the wall, about the size of a shoebox, with a microphone and a few dials, the SCR 508 radio. And that box. It'd change everything about how tanks fight, for good. Before we get why that little radio mattered so much, we need to get one thing straight, Otto and every other German tank crew thought they had this war in the bag. Their tanks were monsters, no 2 ways about it. Let's talk about why they felt that way, step by step, real numbers, real stories, the stuff that made Otto lie awake at night thinking, we can't lose. First, the Tiger I, you know how people talk about unstoppable weapons. This was it for 1943. Weighs 57 tons, twice what a Sherman M4 weighs. Front armor. 100mm thick enough to bounce a Sherman 75mm shell right off, even at point-blank range. And that 88mm KWK-36 gun. It could take out a Sherman from over a mile away, before the American crew even saw the Tiger. The Wehrmacht bragged one Tiger could take down 10 Shermans. And early on, they weren't lying. At the Battle of Sidi Bouzid, just a week before Kasserine, 18 Tigers destroyed 50 American tanks, most Shermans, without losing a single Tiger. Otto was there that day, too. He took out 3 Shermans in 15 minutes. First time I got in a Tiger. Otto later said, sitting in his living room in 2010, 67 years later. Felt like driving a fortress. We'd roll up, fire once, and watch their tanks blow up. We knew the Americans couldn't touch us. Their shells bounced off like pebbles hitting a brick wall. Then there's the Panther. Lighter than the Tiger, 45 tons, but faster. 34 miles per hour, compared to the Sherman's 24. Its 75mm KWK-42 gun was smaller than the Tiger's 88, but it fired a longer, sharper shell that could punch through a Sherman's front armor from 1,500 yards. And that sloped armor? Angled 55 degrees at the front, so when a shell hit, it glanced off instead of exploding. Heinz Guderian, Germany's father of armored warfare, the guy who invented the Blitzkrieg, called the Panther the best tank of the war. He wrote a memo to Hitler in 1943, the Panther beats the Sherman in every way, firepower, armor, speed. The Allies have nothing to match it. If we can build enough, we'll win the tank war. And let's not forget the crews. German tankers trained for months, special schools in Poland and Germany, where they lived in their tanks, learned to fix engines in the mud, shoot straight in the rain, work as a team. A Tiger crew could load and fire that 88mm gun every 8 seconds, 2 seconds faster than a Sherman crew. Otto trained for 6 months before getting his Tiger. We lived in that tank, he said. Knew every bolt, every wire. Could fix a broken fuel line out in the desert with a piece of rubber hose and a clamp. The Americans? Most of them were kids, 18, 19 years old, thrown into tanks with 2 weeks of training. We laughed at them. Thought they didn't stand a chance. By 1943, the German High Command had this logic locked down: better tanks plus better crews equals unbeatable. They even made jokes about the Sherman, called it the Ronson, the lighter that lights up the first time you click it, that Tommy Cooker, 'cause it burns so easy. But here's the thing they missed, something that didn't show up on any specs sheet, something that didn't make it into Guderian's memos. Their tanks could kill, sure. But they couldn't talk to each other. German tanks had radios, yeah. But they were old AM-1s, called the Fu-5. Only 10 watts of power, enough to talk 1 mile, if the weather's good, if there's no dust or smoke, if no other radios are on. And static? Terrible. Rain made it worse, sand got in the dials and shorted them out. Worse, only 20% of German tanks had radios at all. The rest, most Panthers, all stoogey assault guns, relied on hand signals, flags, or runners, guys who ran between tanks with messages. Imagine trying to wave a flag in a tank battle, dust everywhere, smoke blocking your view, bullets flying. It was impossible. Otto's loader, Carl, told me once, we exchanged letters in the 90s, half the time, we had no idea where the other tanks were. We'd fire, then wait, hoping we weren't hitting our own guys. One time, a Panther fired at us by mistake. Missed by 10 feet. We yelled at them, but they couldn't hear us. Their radio was broken. Guderian later admitted, in his memoirs after the war, we focused on making tanks bigger and stronger, but we forgot one thing: communication. A tank that can't talk can't fight as a team. It's just a big, slow target. The Americans, though. They'd figured that out. And they were about to drop something on the German army that didn't explode, didn't have a gun, but changed every battle from then on. Let's jump to October 1942, few months before Kasserine Pass. A U.S. Army engineer named Major John Moses is in a workshop at Fort Knox, Kentucky, holding that little black box I told you about, the SCR-508 radio. He's turning it over in his hands, testing the microphone. "This'll work," he says to his assistant, a kid named Tim. "Mark my words." Major Moses wasn't some big-shot general, he was a former radio repairman from Chicago, the guy who fixed people's car radios in the 1930s. He knew AM radios were junk for tanks, so he spent 2 years designing an FM one. Let's keep the tech simple, no jargon, I promise. The German WWII was AM, amplitude modulation. You know how old car radios get static when it rains, or when a truck drives by? That's AM. The SCR 508 was FM, frequency modulation. Clearer, stronger, almost immune to interference. Rain didn't bother it, dust didn't short it out. You could talk through smoke, through fog, through artillery fire. Then there's power. WWII had 10 watts. SCR 508 had 25. That means it could talk 5 miles in open country, like the Tunisian desert, 2 miles in forest or cities, like Normandy's hedgerows. That might not sound like much, but in a tank battle, 5 miles is the difference between being blind and seeing the whole battlefield. But the biggest deal? Every Sherman had one. Not 20%, not 50% to 100%. By 1943, every U.S. tank crew had a radio operator, usually a guy with experience fixing radios, whose only job was to talk to other tanks, to infantry, to planes. No more runners, no more flags. Just a microphone and a dial. Major Moses said later, in a 1946 interview, "We didn't make the Sherman faster or stronger. We made it smarter." A tank that can talk to its friends beats a bigger, badder enemy every time. You don't need a 88mm gun if you know where the enemy is before he knows where you are. Let me introduce you to John Morgan, red, to his friends, 'cause of his bright red hair. 24-year-old tank commander from Iowa, former farm boy who'd never seen a tank before the war. In November 1942, he was one of the first soldiers to test the SCR 508 in training at Fort Hood, Texas. Red remembered his first time using it, clear as day. When we talked in 1998, he was 80 then, still sharp as a tack. We had 3 Shermans in a field, mine was red, the others white and blue. I told my radio operator, Joe, to call M. He presses the button, says, red to white, red to blue, form a line, 100 yards apart. 2 seconds later, white says, copy, red, moving left. Blue says, copy, moving right. We moved like we were tied together with a rope. Before, we'd yell, wave flags, half the time, they didn't get the message. Once, white thought I told M to charge, they ran right into a fake minefield. Embarrassing. Now. It was like we were in the same tank. Joe could talk to M while I focused on driving. Game changer. In one training exercise, their team got attacked by a mock Tiger, just a Sherman painted black, with a stick for a fake 88mm gun. The mock Tiger fired at Red's tank. They used blank rounds, with smoke to make it look real. Instead of panicking, Red grabbed the radio, white, go left, circle around, hit his rear. Blue, stay right, keep his gun busy. I'll slow down, make him think I'm scared. It worked. White snuck up behind the mock Tiger, yelled, gotcha, over the radio. Blue kept it distracted. The mock Tiger was destroyed in 2 minutes. Red laughed. That's when I knew, this radio wasn't just a tool. It was a weapon. Better than any gun. You might be wondering, if it's so good, why didn't Germany copy it? 2 big reasons, parts and mindset. First, parts. The SCR 508 used crystal-controlled frequencies, small, precise crystals that keep the radio on the right channel, no static. Germany's war industry was already stretched thin by 1943. They couldn't make enough crystals for their planes and U-boats, let alone their tanks. Most German radios used old vacuum tubes, which broke easily and needed constant replacement. Otto told me, we captured a Sherman in 1944, took the radio out. It had these little crystals, tiny, shiny things. Our engineers said, we can't make these. We didn't have the machines, didn't have the raw materials. Copper was scarce, we were using wire made from iron, which didn't work as well. It was hopeless. Second, mindset. German generals thought bigger equals better. They were too busy building Tigers and Panthers to worry about radios. Hitler himself said, in 1943, "We need more tanks, not more talk boxes. The Americans can't beat our Tigers with radios." By the time they realized the SCR-508 was a problem, it was too late. In 1944, they tried making an FM radio, the Fu-8, but only 500 got made. Most were sent to the Eastern Front, to fight the Soviets. Otto never saw one. "We heard about M," he said. "But never got one. Our generals cared more about Tigers than communication." Now let's take this from training to real battles. From North Africa to Normandy to Germany, that SCR-508 turned Shermans, outgunned, outarmored, into something the Germans couldn't stop. Let's walk through 3 fights, told by the guys who were there: Red, his radio operator Joe, even Otto. First, back to Kasserine Pass, February 19, 1943. We saw Otto's side, now let's hear Red's. Red's unit, the 1st Armored Division, got to Tunisia in January 1943, fresh from training. They were nervous, most had never been in combat. On the 19th, Red's 3 Shermans, red, white, blue, got sent to block a German advance through Kasserine Pass. The desert was quiet, too quiet. We saw Tigers ahead, 3 of them, parked behind a sand dune, Red said. "My gunner, Mike, goes, Red, we can't take them head on. Their 88 LL punched through us like butter." I grabbed the radio. Joe was already listening to German traffic, static but clear enough to tell they were planning to attack. He told White and Blue, "White, go left, there's a gully 500 yards that way. Hide there, wait for my signal. Blue, go right, behind those rocks. I'll stay here, make M think we're the only ones. When I say, now, hit M in the rear. Joe, keep listening, tell me if they call for backup." Joe nodded, adjusting his headphones. "Copy, Red. German radio's quiet, they don't know we're here." 5 minutes later, the Tigers attacked. The first shot hit Blue's tank, luckily, it bounced off the turret. "Now!" Red yelled into the radio. White's Sherman popped out of the gully, firing at the nearest Tiger's rear. Blue's tank did the same, hitting another Tiger in the engine. One Tiger blew up, flames shooting 20 feet in the air. The other 2 ran, their radios too broken to call for help. Red's crew cheered, slapping each other on the back. "We should have been dead," Red said. "But that radio let us work together." The Germans? All alone. Their radios were static, couldn't even tell each other we were behind M. Joe heard one of them yell over the radio, "Where are they?" No one answered. Otto, watching from the desert, was confused. "They moved like they knew what we were doing," he said. "We had better tanks, but they had better communication. Didn't make sense." I thought, what are we missing? Next, Normandy, June 1944. D-Day was the 6th, by the 10th, Red's unit was fighting near Caen, France. The terrain here was nothing like the desert, thick hedgerows, tall, dense bushes, that blocked visibility, narrow dirt roads, farms with stone walls. Perfect for ambushes. Red's unit had 15 Shermans, all with SCR-508s. They were up against a German Panzer division with 12 Tigers and 20 Panthers, commanded by a colonel named Erich von Manstein, no relation to the famous general, just a guy with the same last name. The Germans thought it'd be easy. Von Manstein later wrote, "The hedgerows favor us. We can hide, ambush the Shermans one by one. They'll never see us coming." But Red had a plan, wolf packs, he called them. Each Sherman had a job, he said. Some watched for Tigers, some talked to infantry, the guys on foot, some called in air support, P-47 fighter bombers. Joe was busy non-stop, talking to 3 tanks at once, plus the infantry, plus the planes. He had a map on his lap, marking where everyone was. It was like he had eyes everywhere. One morning, at 6 a.m., fog was thick, you couldn't see 50 feet ahead. Red's radio crackled, "Red, this is White, Tiger at 10 o'clock, 1,500 yards. Hiding behind the big hedgerow by the farm." It was White's radio operator, a kid named Tim. Red replied, "White, keep him busy, fire a few rounds, make him think you're alone. Blue, go around the right, there's a gap in the hedgerow I saw yesterday. Hit his side. Infantry, can you give us smoke? We need to cover Blue's move." The infantry, guardsmen from Massachusetts, threw smoke grenades. Thick white smoke filled the road, blocking the Tiger's view. Blue's Sherman snuck through the gap, its engine quiet. "Blue to Red, ready to fire," Joe relayed. "Fire when ready," Red said. Blue's 75mm gun boomed. The Tiger's side armor exploded, fuel leaking, crew bailing out. Von Manstein's radio crackled, "Where are they? Why can't we find them?" No one answered, their radios were static, lost in the fog. By day's end, Red's unit took out 5 Tigers and 7 Panthers, lost only 2 Shermans, both hit by artillery, not tank fire. A German prisoner, a Panther crewman named Hans, said to Red, "You Americans talk too much. Your tanks never stop chattering," Red to White, Blue to Red. "We can't hide. We can't fight that." 3rd, the Battle of the Bulge, December 1944. Germany's last big push of the war. Hitler sent 250,000 soldiers and 600 tanks into Belgium, trying to split the Allied lines, capture Antwerp, and force a peace deal. The weather was terrible, snow, fog, wind, perfect for hiding, but bad for radios. Or so the Germans thought. Red's unit got trapped near Bastogne, Belgium, surrounded by German tanks, no way out. The temperature was 10 degrees below zero, snow covered everything. Fog was so thick, you couldn't see 10 feet ahead, Red said. We were low on fuel, low on ammo. But our radios still worked. Joe had wrapped his in a blanket to keep it warm, said, "Can't let this die on us." German radios? Static. The cold froze the vacuum tubes, snow got in the dials. Otto's unit was part of the attack, he was in a Panther now, his Tiger destroyed in Normandy. "We couldn't talk to anyone," he said. Our radio operator, Carl, tried to fix it, but his hands were frozen. We had no idea where the other Panthers were. We just drove, hoping we didn't get lost. Red used the SCR-508 to call other trapped units. "This is Red, 1st Armored, we're at the crossroads by the church. Need help, Panther on the west side, blocking the road. Anyone copy?" 30 minutes later, a voice came back, "Red, this is Green, 2nd Armored. We're 2 miles north. Can you guide us in?" Joe got on the radio, "Green, head south on the dirt road, watch for mines at the bridge. When you see the church steeple, turn left. We'll fire a green flare to mark our position." Green's Shermans arrived 20 minutes later. Together, they took out the Panther. "That radio saved us," Red said. "Without it, we'd have frozen or starved or gotten overrun. But we talked, we coordinated." The Germans? No clue where we were. They fired blindly, hoping to hit something. When Allied reinforcements arrived, Patton's 3rd Army, moving north through the snow, Red's radio helped coordinate the counterattack. "We told Patton's tanks where the German tanks were, where the mines were," Joe said. "They didn't have to guess. They just attacked. The German offensive failed." Guderian later wrote, "Weather should have helped us. But American radios worked when ours didn't. That's the difference between winning and losing. They could talk, we couldn't." Let's zoom in on one moment that says it all, March 1945, near Cologne, Germany. The war is almost over, Berlin is under attack, the Allies are pushing into the heart of Germany. Red's unit, now 10 Shermans, all with SCR 508s, is led by Captain Robert "Bob" Johnson, a tough guy from New York who'd fought in North Africa and Normandy. They're moving through a forest, heading toward the Rhine River, when Joe's radio crackles. "Captain, picking up German radio traffic, static, but it's Tigers. A lot of M." Bob stops the column. "How many, Joe? Where?" Joe listens, adjusting the dial. "Sounds like 10 to 12 Tigers. 3 miles ahead, in the forest, hiding near the old mill. They're talking about ambushing us." Bob smiles. "Good. Let's set a trap." He gets on the radio, his voice calm, "All units, this is lead. Tigers in the forest ahead, near the mill. Here's the plan. Alpha and Bravo, go left, circle the forest, stay off the road, keep your engines quiet. Hit their rear, focus on the ones with the 88s. Charlie and Delta, go right, hide in the wheat field, cut off their escape to the north. Echo to Juliet, stay here, fire smoke grenades to cover Alpha and Bravo. Make the Tigers think we're attacking head-on. Joe, you stay on German frequencies, let me know if they move, if they call for backup." The Shermans move out. Alpha and Bravo creep left, their tracks crunching on snow, it's still cold in March. Charlie and Delta go right, hiding in the wheat field, tall enough to cover the tanks. Echo to Juliet fires smoke grenades, thick clouds cover the road, blocking the Tigers' view. Otto is in one of those Tigers, his third tank of the war. He's tired, his uniform is dirty, he hasn't had a hot meal in a week. "We're waiting for the Shermans to come down the road," he said. "Carl's radio is static, but we don't care. We think we've got them trapped." 10 minutes pass. No Shermans. Otto frowns, "Where are they?" Then his gunner, Hans, yells, "Tigers behind us. 300 yards. Otto spins the periscope. Alpha and Bravo's Shermans are firing at the Tiger's rear, one Tiger is already burning. "Fire back. Load AP, he yells. But the Tigers are trapped, they're parked in a narrow clearing, can't turn around fast enough. Then Charlie and Delta's Shermans open fire from the wheat field, hitting Tigers on the right. Otto's Tiger gets hit first, shell through the engine. "We're done," he says, quiet. Carl slams his fist on the radio, "Why can't we call for help? Why is this always broken?" They bail out, running into the forest. By the end, all 12 Tigers are destroyed. Not a single Sherman lost. Bob walks over to Otto, who's sitting on the ground, staring at the burning Tigers, snow falling on his shoulders. Bob is holding a canteen, he hands it to Otto. "You had better tanks," Bob says, sitting down next to him. "Why'd you lose?" Otto takes a sip of water, his hands shaking. "You had better radios. You talked to each other. We couldn't. We were alone. Every time, we were alone." Bob nods. "War isn't about the biggest gun. It's about working together. Our radios made us a team. Your Tigers were just machines. Machines don't win wars, people do. People who talk, who plan, who have each other's backs." That day, Otto learned what the German High Command never did: hardware doesn't win wars, communication does. That SCR 508 didn't just help win World War II, it rewrote how armies fight. Let's talk numbers, what veterans said, and why this still matters today, for tanks, for planes, even for your phone. First, the numbers. By war's end, the U.S. Army made 50,000 SCR 508 radios, one for every tank, every half-track, every command car. Every infantry unit had one, too. The results? North Africa, 1942-43 Shermans with SCR 508s had a 3-to-1 kill ratio, 3 German tanks destroyed for every 1 Sherman lost. Before the SCR-508, it was 1:1, we lost as many as we killed. Normandy, 1944, 7 German tanks destroyed per 1 Sherman lost. Germany, 1945, 10:1. By the end, we were taking out 10 German tanks for every one we lost, all because we could talk. General George Patton, guy who loved tanks more than anything, said, "The SCR-508 is our most important weapon. Without it, Shermans are sitting ducks. With it? Unstoppable. I'd rather have a Sherman with a radio than a Tiger without one." Veterans said it saved their lives. Red Morgan, "That radio saved me at least 10 times. Once, a Tiger was behind us, I didn't see it, but White called in and said, 'Red, Tiger at 6 o'clock. I spun around, fired, hit his side. No radio. I'm dead.' Joe would always say, 'Red, I got your back,' and he did. Joe, Red's radio operator, told me, my job was to listen. I heard German tanks talking, I heard infantry yelling for help, I heard planes calling in targets. I was the eyes and ears of the unit. Without that radio, we were blind." Otto, after the war, wrote a book called Tigers in the Sand. In it, he said, the American radio was their biggest advantage. We focused on making better tanks, they focused on making better teams. We were wrong. They were right. A tank that can't talk is a tank that can't win. Guderian, in his memoirs, "I made a mistake. I thought tanks won battles. But it's not the tank, it's the men in it, and their ability to talk to each other. The Americans got that. We didn't. That's why we lost the tank war." Now, let's talk legacy. Today, the SCR-508 is in museums. You can see one at the Smithsonian, in Washington, D.C., but its idea lives on. Modern militaries call it network-centric warfare, connecting tanks, planes, ships, and soldiers with radios, satellites, and computers. Think about it, a U.S. Army M1 Abrams tank today can talk to a drone 100 miles away, the drone spots enemy tanks and sends their location to the tank, to a ship at sea, the ship fires artillery to support the tank, to a soldier on the ground, the soldier tells the tank where the mines are, all in real time. That's the SCR-508's grandchild. General David Petraeus, who led U.S. forces in Iraq and Afghanistan, said, "The lessons of the SCR-508 still apply today. In war, information is power. If you can share information faster than your enemy, you win." The Americans in World War II figured that out with a simple radio, and we're still building on that idea. Even your everyday life has the SCR-508's DNA. Your phone uses FM radio, and better tech, like 5G, to connect to cell towers. Your Wi-Fi uses frequency modulation to send data from your router to your laptop. Your car's GPS uses satellite signals, same idea as the SCR-508, just fancier. All started with that little black box in a Sherman tank. Let's step back from the battlefield. This isn't just a tank story, it's a universal truth. Teamwork and communication beat individual strength every time. Think about sports. A basketball team with 5 all-stars who don't pass, or talk, will lose to a team of average players who work together. I played high school basketball, our star player thought he could win games alone. We lost in the first round of playoffs. Next year, we started passing, talking, "I'm open. Cover left." We won the state championship. Same guys, different approach. Think about business. A company with great employees who don't communicate will fail. My uncle owned a construction company, his workers didn't talk to each other. One crew dug a hole, another crew poured concrete over it. Wasted time, wasted money. He started having daily meetings, gave everyone radios, suddenly, no more mistakes. Think about family. A family that doesn't talk will drift apart. My grandparents stopped talking after a fight in the 70s. They lived in the same house, but didn't speak for 10 years. When my grandma got sick, they finally talked, and realized they'd been wrong. Communication fixes things. Otto learned that the hard way. He had the best player, the Tiger tank, but no team. Bob and Red had average players, Shermans, but a team that talked, planned, had each other's backs. Red put it best, when we talked in 1998, that radio wasn't just a radio. It was saying, I've got your back. When you know the guy in the next tank is watching out for you, when you can talk to him in the middle of a battle, you fight better. You don't feel alone. War's scary, real scary, but being alone is scarier. That radio kept us from being alone. We live in a world that loves celebrating individual wins, bigger cars, faster phones, stronger athletes. We see movies about the hero who did it all alone. But the SCR 508 story reminds us, we're stronger together. We accomplish more when we talk, when we listen, when we help each other. Let's go back to Otto, sitting in the desert at Kasserine Pass, watching his tiger burn. He didn't know it then, but he was seeing the future of warfare. That SCR 508 wasn't flashy. Didn't explode. No cool name like Tiger or Panther. It didn't have a gun, didn't have armor. But it did something no weapon could, turned a bunch of individual soldiers, farm boys, factory workers, kids from Iowa and New York, into a team. Today, when we talk about World War II, we talk about D-Day, about the atomic bomb, about great generals like Patton and Eisenhower. But we should talk about the SCR 508. We should talk about Red and Joe, about Bob Johnson, about the thousands of radio operators who sat in Shermans, talking, coordinating, winning. Their story isn't just about war. It's about small, smart ideas beating big, brute force ones. It's about communication turning underdogs into winners. It's about people, ordinary people, doing extraordinary things because they work together. Otto died in 2015, at the age of 94. His last interview was with a German magazine. He said, I wish we'd had that American radio. Not to win the war, but to be a better team. War's about people, not machines. The Americans knew that. I hope we never forget it. Next time you see a tank in a museum, or hear a radio playing, or use your phone to call a friend, remember the SCR 508. Remember that the most powerful weapon isn't the one that fires the biggest bullet, it's the one that lets people talk to each other. 'Cause in the end, teamwork isn't just a nice idea. It's how we win, whether we're fighting a war, building a business, raising a family, or just trying to make the world a little better. Thanks for listening. Let's keep talking, keep working together, and keep that lesson alive.